actually very interested as an ex-VB fan and an ex-VB developer to know more about your experience of developing VB tooling and then integrating that with the Visual Studio family.
That's a great question. It does bring back some fond memories, Johnny, when you talk about VB. And there is the VB 6 and before, and then there is the VB.NET and after kind of thing, right? And I remember back in the early days of VB, one of the things that we'd been sort of talking about at Microsoft, and back then, remember, we are still talking about what I call client-server programming days, let alone like, pre-web and definitely, pre-cloud kind of thing, right? And those days, one of the things, this, right from day one, Microsoft was all about saying, hey, how can we build the power of software and make it available to everybody? And even then, we knew that, hey, there's only so much any one company or any one organization is going to be able to do. The more we can enable the rest of the world to be able to both realize, understand, and use software to be able to solve wonderful problems, we thought was the way to go, right? But in the early days, we had Fortran, we had C, C++, assembly language, a bunch of these languages that people were using. And it always felt like, hey, you needed sort of to understand rocket science before you could program. Okay. And we had sort of been fondly thinking about this inside the Microsoft context, saying, hey, what would it take to democratize programming? Okay. In some sense, the catchphrase we would be used is hey, even my mother should be able to program, right? Now, I can tell you that VB probably didn't go all the way there, but VB was sort of the first, sort of big step forward, I would say, both the world at large, but more importantly for Microsoft to say, hey, we are going to bring together a programming language, a runtime, and a tooling environment together that really enables a broader set of people to be able to write programs. In fact, I'll tell you an interesting anecdote. Okay, so this happened a few years after VB came into existence. VB was growing wildfire. It was becoming very popular. A lot of people were excited about what VB could do for them. In fact, people started building a career and a lifestyle out of VB kind of thing. So it was fantastic to see all that. Okay, so when all this was happening, I had the opportunity to go to one of the universities at Texas to give a keynote to the computer science department. Okay, so I said, oh yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm excited to go talk to the computer science students because these kids are going to be the next generation people. So I was excited and I went and gave the talk. And then the computer science head of department said hey, the faculty would like to have a smaller meaning in a smaller group environment, a conversation with you. Are you open? I said, sure, we'll talk about it. And I'll tell you, that was one of the toughest conversations I had. And the reason was because a number of people in that smaller group were giving me immense amount of grief about how we can be doing, coming out with languages like VB and sort of literally in their words, hey, you're making it hard for computer science students to really learn programming. VB sort of provides a level of abstraction. They don't really understand what is below that. And you can't do this. We are here trying to teach, the fundamentals of computer science. And here you're coming out with programming language like VB that just takes, that ability away from people to have to learn everything deeper kind of thing, right? So all my point is, on the one hand, people are really, really, really excited that hey, it is the first step towards democratization of programming. On the other hand, some of the academic purists were unhappy because we were raising the abstraction level and making it easy for a broader set of people to be able to get stuff done through programming, right? Now, fast forward to today, the world is completely different, right? We've definitely come a long way from the VB days kind of thing. But I'll fondly remember VB as sort of a huge step forward for Microsoft in our quest to democratize programming and software development.